Google Hangout special edition episode of the Naked Mormonism podcast. Today we are introducing a very special project that I've been working on with a couple of other guys who happen to be on the line. We have today with us Dan Weiss and Jared Rowley. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you doing, Bryce?
Doing good. How are you, Dan? I don't think Dan unmuted his microphone.
Oh, it's tricky.
There we go.
Here I am.
Hey, there we go. There's Dan. Awesome. So today we are all gathered here to talk about this Kickstarter that we're launching here. And this Kickstarter is set to fund a project that we've been working on for quite some time now. This is based on the realbookofmormon.org. Now, for a while, some of the listeners of the podcast may know that this is something that has a website that I've been posting chapters of the book to that is coming up, the book that I'm working on. But there's so much more to the website that is available now, and that is thanks to the help of Dan and Jared. Jared is our web developer who is doing everything on the back end and making the website look as awesome as it does. And then Dan and I are responsible for the content that's actually going on the website. So to get us started, let's go ahead and talk about the website itself. And I'm going to turn it over to Dan because he is working on the Book of Mormon Comparative. I'm going to share the screen right here, and we'll be able to see exactly what you're talking about. Okay, there's the screen. And Dan, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the Book of Mormon comparison that we're looking at here.
Okay. What many moons ago, I had decided that I wanted to be able to compare earlier versions of the Book of Mormon to what the current Book of Mormon is. And was back, my original interest was sparked back in about 1980. And without going through the entire history of everything, what I had decided I wanted to do was compare in detail the differences that were found, because there were some. I had no idea that there were quite as many as there actually. But so I had begun in 1980 with a book that Deseret Book had published of the reproduction of the 1830 edition of the Book of Mormon, and a red tip marker, and started going through and comparing them to the 1977 version that I have. And it came quite a task that I wasn't really up to at the moment. Advent of personal computers was still on the horizon, and I had waited this past year when released the the printer's manuscript through the Joseph Smith papers. And once I saw that, I had got a new zeal to try to go and transcribe this to indicate the differences between the two handwritten original documents, which are the printer's manuscript and the known as the original manuscript. Compare those to the current version that is online, which was at lds.org, which was last revised in 2013, and to be able to show the differences between the two. No commentary, no. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, Dan. A person may ask, why is this important? Because as we saw on the screenshot just now, on the left side we have the black and the blue lettering. On the that's the original manuscript and the printer's manuscript, and then on the right side of the screen we have the current day version. And like you said, there are all of the red marks that you took, like with a red felt tip pin. And those are all of the differences from the original manuscript to the current 2013 edition. So if a person asks, why is this important? What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, there's different reasonings for the importance of it. I've been quite a genealogy buff active days in the church, and for me to be able to drill back to the most authentic, the most real, the most unedited version of anything when it comes to history winds up being highest priority for me. In other words, I feel like you get the genuine article, the real feel, the real nuances that were happening. When you go through and you take a look at the Book of Mormon from the standpoint of the original documents in the printer's manuscript, you 19th century feel for what was going on and how it was being presented. You also get a feel for seeing the mistakes or the quick edits. To mention that in the Book of Mormon Comparative, when I'm showcasing the printer's manuscript and the original manuscript, I have not included edits that were made to the pages that were later found out to be in error, such as before Joseph Smith published the 1837 version, he went through in 1836 and made several edits to the printer's manuscript, most of which were changing the words which to who, but there were a lot of other minor things that he did. Those are not included. If it's changed in 2013, the difference is shown up there. But any of the minor changes that were made by either Joseph Smith or Oliver Cowdery at the time were not included. So for me, I guess in answering the question for me, it's to get back to the most authentic, the most edited version of the Book of Mormon that's possible, and to be able to show what has changed over the years. Now, I try to be, because of the fact that I'm a cynic and a skeptic about the church, there's a side of me that also weighs in very taking into evidence the changes of the church that really shown to the general membership of the church. And so of course that makes me happy to be able to present that way.
Of course.
But
I guess it would come down to a question of, if this is indeed the divinely inspired work of God, then why does it require changing? Especially if it was given to him through an infallible translation method of seeing, a rock in his hat. Why would there possibly be any errors in it? Why would they need to change the word of God? I think that's a challenging question for any Mormon to try and wrestle with.
Yeah, and of course that comes into play in my heart because of the fact that I don't believe that it was divinely inspired. But even more than that, the fact that I don't believe that it was divinely inspired, to take a look at this book from in its very natural beginnings and standpoint, to me, it was the reasoning, in many ways, the reasoning why it wasn't inspired. Even if you don't look at the changes that have been made, if you take a look at the original documents itself, as you go through and evaluate, it's apparent that the use of grammar, the lack of education, the mistakes that came throughout it were could be described as very commonplace for the time and the setting that those guys were in. So I try to it's the given to show all of the differences in it, to show that it really wasn't inspired, especially if you, from the standpoint of believing Harris gave as far as the process of the translation, where it seemed very arduous and that it was very unforgiving, that the words would appear and have to be repeated back, and it had to be exact. That if you go by that, and then you take a look at the original writings, it really leaves you with doubt as far as divine authenticity.
I think that's probably the biggest point that we need to focus on with this. But let's throw it over to Jared real quick here. Jared, tell me, you've kind of been the architect on the back end of this website. We've kind of been working together to get it to where it is now. But of course, you are wholly to credit for the website and the beauty that it has right now. So kind of tell us a little bit, what kind of caused you to want to do this? What gave you the motivation to want to create this website in the form that we see it in now?
Well, to make a long story short, I just feel like if it's not true, then people need to know. And I grew up my whole life with my family kind of trapped in this religion. Many of them are still just wholeheartedly true believing Mormons, and it's just so blatantly obvious if somebody just looks at some of the facts that it's not true. So it definitely impacts me. I guess it's kind of a way for me to hope that other people can just get the information they need in a non attacking way, I guess, where they can come out and search it. They can come out and just they can reference anything. They can look at it, and really just have that resource out there. When I lost my faith, I didn't have a resource like this, and so it was a lot of reading different websites, kind of fact checking, and just coming up with the questions of why are things the way they are. And so for me, it's just the more people we can help know the truth, the better. And the more people that can just live their life and have the same goals that are without religion, I think the better off. So
Absolutely. Those are fantastic goals. And I think that kind of embodies the entire goal of this website, is to make it a central resource where people can come to find everything they need to know about Mormonism, whether they are a believer or a non-believer or a never Mormon, somebody who doesn't know anything about Mormonism. We want to present the information in a very palpable form where any casual reader can log on, look at the website, and read for hours and just learn and enjoy all the content we have to offer. And of course, Dan and Jared, you are both quite helpful in presenting this in a way that is very useful. And I'm hoping to get both of you guys in to talk a little bit about the Defector of the Faith portal that is on the website. So let me share the screen here, and I will show all of the listeners and the viewers what we're talking about. This is the Defector of the Faith portal. When we click into it to see more, we have it load, and it just loads a random fact pulled from 1,001 different facts. Now, they could be quotes from church leaders. They could be facts from 1 Nephi 6, as this is. And all you have to do is just click on pick another fact, and then it brings up another fact for you. It's just a constant click hole where you can just get read on Mormon information for hours. And also for anybody that feels, you know, bold enough to share this on Facebook or on Twitter, there are those buttons ready to go, linked up, just a quick click away from sharing them. So let's get both of you guys to talk a little bit about the Defector of the Faith, because Dan, you are responsible for creating the content, and Jared, you're responsible for creating it kind of as we see the website, as we see this special portal that we're talking about here.
Well, to kind of go along with what I was saying earlier, I mean, there's so many reasons why somebody should just leave, and Dan did a really good job of putting a lot of those together. And this is just kind of a way where it's almost like if you're debating someone, like it's like, well, why don't you think it's true? You could just come here and you could be like, pick any of these facts, and you could say fact 4, this is the reason why, or fact 310, this is another reason. Like, there's just so many facts out there that is just reasons why people should, just focus on other things besides this religion or any religion. And to me, that's what is the benefit from me. And as you're looking at them right now, I mean, Dan did a really good job. He's put images with almost all of them, and I've read through almost every one of them, and they're awesome.
Well, thank you, Jared.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Jared's done it.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Jared has obviously done quite a good job in creating the website here, but like Jared said, Dan has kind of been the person that has put all these together and put the pictures with all of them. And I'm just scrolling through them, number by number. You can scroll through all the facts that are available here if you don't want to click on the random fact generator. So let's throw this back over to Dan. Dan, what was kind of your the genesis of this 1001 facts, and why why have you embarked on this section of the project as well?
Well, where the Book of Mormon Comparative is much more of a has particular historical value, and even though it does show the differences and errors that have occurred over the years in the Book of Mormon, there really is no commentary or no it's just presented in the raw format. I'm far more vocal when it comes to the bad sides of Mormonism, the things that create the angst, the things that create the discoveries that people have about the fact that Mormonism is not true. And years ago, I wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Anti-Mormonism, and it chronicles and documents in kind of an encyclopedia A to Z format the different items that have troubled me. And I tried to make sure that they were quite factual as I was doing my research and coming across a lot of different things that could be added to it. I would kind of toss out things that I felt were a little bit more such as I left the church because of a bad talk in sacrament meeting or something. I wanted to be sure that they were authentic. Well, I gathered over the years of these different items and discussed things on Facebook, and they've kind of all come together in this Defector of the Faith portal. And so what you're seeing there is kind of a product of the bits and pieces of Mormonism that gained over the years too.
Awesome.
Deliver to have people question their faith and what they've been taught. I would like to mention that even though there are 700 of the facts that are posted, I've got the full 1,000 ready, and kind of my backup source for the Defector of the Faith has been, if I need to go back and add some things occasionally, I'll go back to my Encyclopedia of Anti-Mormonism, again, which is an A through Z chronicle of these different things. And here I'm ready to eclipse the 1,000 fact mark, and I've only way through the letter B encyclopedia.
So what you're saying is there's no shortage of facts when it comes to problems with Mormonism or reasons to defect from the faith, as the portal is titled Defector of the Faith. And let's just say this as, right off the bat, this is it in its earliest form. This is, how we're kind of presenting this from the beginning. But there's who knows exactly where this might go. I kind of have this vision that possibly we could turn this into kind of a Mormon wiki, right, where you can go on and search any topic in Mormonism, and it shows, the Defector of the Faith version, and then it might show reference to the pro-Mormon stance, the fair Mormon version of whatever fact the Defector of the Faith is talking about, which I think will only serve to draw more people out of the church, because the fair Mormon it doesn't offer any solace for people that are seeking answers, in my opinion. So Dan,
right.
I think that Defector of the Faith is extremely a very fantastic resource for anybody that wants to know about Mormonism or faith in general. It's not just necessarily Mormonism specifically. There's a lot of Bible quotes in there. A lot of people don't know that Mormons believe in the Bible, the King James Bible. So there's quite a few things about the Bible in there as well that are just as pertinent to Mormonism as any of the other Mormon-specific facts are. So Jared, let's throw it back to you here. You've kind of been creating this website. You've been working on this in your free time for quite some time, but you're also a web developer by trade, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell me, a project like this, the primary reason we're seeking Kickstarter funding for this is because it is a big project, and web development isn't something that's free. But you've been doing this for free the whole time, which is, just
Sure.
unbelievable, because you've poured quite a few hours into this. So something the scale of this, a project like this, a standard person in your line of work, what would a project like this fetch, even if it weren't done in, spare time pro bono as you've been doing?
Sure. So I do quite a few web projects and work with content writers and things, people that do what Dan has done, where they're gathering information, but also just on my own end. Just the hours that I've put in already. I mean, we're talking probably 150 hours so far. If you times that by like a standard rate for a developer, it gets pretty high up there. So that's one cost. And to kind of give you an idea, let's just say on an average developer, we're probably talking $7,000 to $10,000 worth of money just in the development of the site and getting everything working the way it should. But as far as like Dan goes, I mean, he's doing like the comparison, the Book of Mormon comparison, writing down each and every one of the different the changes, and also the Defector of the Faith, going through it and doing that. And so just from what Dan has done, there's hours and hours and hours that he's put in. And even since we started the project, just on Dan's end alone, like he has been nonstop day in, day out, pumping out this material, and this is all stuff that we've been just doing for free. Haven't got we haven't gotten any return on it. Some stuff that feels important to get out there. But yeah, a website like this, we're probably looking at, if I was to say Dan's time and my own time in on this, we're probably looking up to $25,000-$30,000 into just content and the development of the site to get it to where it's at this point.
Absolutely. And I would just go throw this out there and say, that's all the work that, as we don't ever expect to see any sort of return on, but it does hopefully help the listeners and the viewers to understand that this is time that we are just working pro bono. This is completely free, that we're not expecting any return on this investment. And the money that we're going to be pulling in from the Kickstarter campaign, we're not using that to just pay us back for the amount of hours that we've poured into this website. We're using that as further investment. We're trying to roll that money into creating more content on the website, creating a merchandise store, creating all kinds of extra portals and extra resources that are involved in the realbookofmormon.org that can hopefully expand this website to be more than just a project that all of us are wasting a lot of time on. But even so, even if none of that actually ends up happening, we do have to go out and say it's a very liberating project to do nonetheless. The information that we're getting out there, the people that we're trying to reach out to, if it even helps one person, then all of the work that we are doing has been completely worth it. It's not about the money, and we've expressed this far along that it's definitely not about the money. It's about reaching people and trying to get this information out there in a palpable form. And I think that's kind of the what we're trying to attain. Our end all be all goal is get information out there. But of course, like I said, you guys have put quite a few hours into this, and it's hours, especially from professional web developers or authors like yourselves, are not free, and that's something that we all need to understand. So let's go ahead and throw this back to Dan. Dan, you've as Jared said, you've been putting day in and day out hours into this. When I approached you, I had only learned about your Book of Mormon comparative from a YouTube video that you created, and that was just presenting a book that you have that is a Book of Mormon comparative of what we see on the website. And that was it's a 20-minute video which we're going to have linked in the show notes for this episode. Feel free to check that out. But it describes everything about the Book of Mormon comparative, and it has up to, I think, the middle of Alma, if I'm not mistaken. So there's still quite a few hours left to put into it. There's still a lot of information to compile left. But Dan, tell us a little bit about this. This is a big project. What has motivated you to dump, thousands of hours into creating this Book of Mormon comparative?
Oh, I don't know. In going back to trying to figure out the original motivation, I kind of described that. Now it's become just it's become an extra appendage to me. I spend my every waking moment, it seems like, with the editing and recently there's been a reformatting process. The original book as it was designed, that's shown in the YouTube video, from the way the format actually from shown on .org. The formatting is double column now, where it was quite different. Page be the original manuscript and printer's manuscript, the other page being the work version. So there's just, I'm not quite sure what drives me, except for the fact that now I've gotten in so deep with something that determined to finish it. And an interesting byproduct of it is that as I roll along, editing out these little differences in the Book of Mormon, I start gaining insight into certain little aspects of it that uh, that uh, identify with the fraudulent nature of the book. But it also at times make entry in Defector of the Faith too, so they kind of both work hand in hand.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the ideas that we have for future expansion, because I think that's probably the most exciting part of it. We have the website up in its current form, and as we've kind of said, hopefully by the beginning of 2017, the rest of the Book of Mormon Comparative, as well as the rest of the Defector of the Faith facts, will be up and available. But there's also so much more that we plan on implementing into the website. That is, of course, what I'm talking about with this extra investment that we're going to be rolling into the website. One point that I would like to add is eventually we don't want it to stay with just a Book of Mormon comparative. We also want to have multiple versions of the Doctrine and Covenants up there. And if I'm not mistaken, Dan, you said at one point that you wanted to include a Joseph Smith translation of the Bible comparative to the King James Bible, or something to that effect as well. There's some ideas about forums as well, creating threads where people can talk about specific topics. Let's kind of talk about the future expansion goals of that. Jared, do you want to kind of take us on your thoughts of how you hope to see the website evolve from here on?
Sure. So in any web project, as you add content, layouts change, sending that information to the viewer, and how we do that, that all that stuff kind of changes. So when we talk about doing the Doctrine and Covenants comparisons, Bible, most likely the whole website's going to change. It's going to evolve, and it really, in like kind of what I feel like we envision is it being a community that people that are interested in learning about why they shouldn't believe or have those tools to help them cope with like being in a situation where like family members that are close and they love are believing members, but they've lost their faith. And like the forum, if there's a forum that kind of like I'd be able to read that told me what to expect when I went through a faith crisis, and how family members of mine would act, treat me, or just the whole process. I probably in my own life would have done things a little differently, and so I definitely see this as a tool where hopefully we can help other people out, give our experience to those people. Anybody that's gone through faith crisis, or they just have something to add to the site can kind of pitch in. And I hope it's clear that the site's not just like a bashing Mormon site. I mean, there is a reason why there's a comparison. I mean, when Joseph Smith translated, it's supposed to be straight from God's mouth, and it's not. It's been changed and changed and changed. Same with the facts, the Defector of the Faith. I mean, we're not like trying to throw those out there saying like, hey, you guys are ridiculous. We're just saying like, check these facts, and if they're wrong, then make up your own mind on whether or not you want to follow something that is telling you this and it's wrong. But yeah, so the website's going to go through several versions. As we get to the final stages, I know we talked about having maybe some people blog as well. These are all aspects that would need to be incorporated into the site, have time spent on them, and resources purchased and things to be able to get it to those next stages. And so I kind of feel like that's the direction we're going. We understand that it's an evolving site. Things are going to change. Hopefully we can add them, make it easier for anybody that's viewing the site to see and really benefit from, and also get feedback from people that visit the site. That's kind of where I see it going.
Awesome. I couldn't agree more with you. And having that resource for people that are transitioning out of the church, I think is an invaluable resource. Of course, I run the Naked Mormonism podcast, and one of the primary emails that I get in from people is saying, I'm in an interfaith relationship. I don't believe in the church, but my significant other still does believe in the church. What do I do? And I just have to say, I have no idea. That I have never experienced that before. I have no information to give you. But all I can really do is, tell them about some other resources that I've heard of in the past, and there are very few out there. But maybe creating this one central resource where all of this can be available, where people that are in interfaith relationships can come together and talk about what they're going through and say, I found more success when I approached my husband about this, and when I talked to him about this, talked to it about this way, or when I told my wife that the church is all lies and that she's been lied to her entire life, then that didn't really work very well. So what should my new approach be? So having that sense of a resource of kind of a forum type deal, I think that could be endlessly beneficial in and of itself. Just one small aspect to implement on the website at a future goal. I'm just going to take a second to talk about the Real Book of Mormon portal inside the realbookofmormon.org, because this is the section of the website that I am responsible for. And this is basically spawning off of the tale of a GoFundMe that started a year back. And the GoFundMe was 6 months, 2 books. I said, if you guys give me 6 months of living expenses, then I'll write 2 books about Mormonism. Well, the first book is a book establishing the credibility of myself as somebody that's interested in Mormon history. I can't say a historian because I'm not educated as a historian, but this is the Real Book of Mormon, and that's the working title written by me. So far, there are 3 chapters up, and I have just hundreds of thousands of other words to put up here. I have chapters in very rough form that I have yet to format and post on the website in and of itself. But this is going to be an ever-evolving resource as well for people to come and learn a chronological deconstruction of the genesis of the Book of Mormon, basically where the Book of Mormon came from. Most people don't understand the story of Joseph Smith. Even believing members understand Joseph Smith was a young 14-year-old boy, and he went into the grove to pray to God and see, what church was the true church. And then God descended and told him that none of the churches are true and that he should create his own. And then he was given the plates through the angel Moroni, and then the church started, and the rest is history from there. It's not quite that simple. Same thing with the Book of Mormon Comparative. It's not quite as simple as Joseph got these words and then that's the little blue book that missionaries carry around with them today. It's so much more complicated than that. So that's what the Real Book of Mormon portal is on the realbookofmormon.org. It's a working title for this book that I'm in the process of writing. And it's just exactly that. It's telling the story of Joseph Smith and how many possible sources the Book of Mormon actually came from. It there will be certain chapters that focus on like the Solomon Spaulding authorship theory, certain chapters that focus on the late war between Great Britain and the United States of 1812, different books that are very strong possible source texts that will be have entire chapters written about them on this website. And let's also talk about that aspect of the Book of Mormon Comparative, because we do have the comparative out as it stands right now. So if we go to First Nephi chapter 3 here, we can see the comparison. We have the original manuscript and printer's manuscript combined and reflected against the current LDS.org version. But we also want to include passages from these possible source texts in a different color text. Say if this is if there was a chunk of text from right here in verse 6 or 7 that came from another book, like the Late War of 1812 or the First Book of Napoleon, let's say, then we want to have a link to that brings up a dialog box in the middle of the screen that shows where this passage possibly came from. So it's just one more point of resource that we want to add to this. That's all about just furthering people's knowledge about the Book of Mormon and about Mormonism in general. So that's kind
I
of
think it's important for the viewers to know too, if they have ideas on how we can better display content or new ideas on something that we can, put on the site to reach out to others. Like, I think all three of us are very open to having them write in, tell us about those, and see what we can do to get them on the site. But again, the more that gets up on the site, the more work it is, the more resources have to be put into it.
Absolutely. And that's the important point to focus on here, and why this is in the form of a Kickstarter, because it does require a lot of resources. We're not just, creating this as some kind of, a Ponzi scheme or something to try and get rich. No, we're trying to take the money from the Kickstarter campaign and roll it into the website, invest it into making the website better and better, the best it can possibly be as a resource for people to learn about Mormonism. So let's kind of throw a personal touch on this. People might wonder, okay, so we have three anti-Mormons here making a website about Mormonism. Uh, Obviously, this is not valuable. It's just trying to hurt the church. I would say that's not at all what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a site for disseminating information. If the information seems harmful to the church, then that's because of the nature of the information. It's not the way that it's presented. So let's talk about our kind of our backgrounds. Let's take 5 or 10 minutes a person each and talk about our backgrounds and how we came to this point of wanting to start up a quote unquote anti-Mormon website. Dan, do you want to start us off telling us kind of your transition through Mormonism?
Well, sure. I'd like to start out by saying that I've got you completely duped, evidently, because I believe I am the devil incarnate himself, and that you're staring into the face of evil right now. And no, just
I can't argue with that. So yeah, no.
No, my background in the church was that I church when I was 15 years old back in 1975, and was very active member of the church from that point on. As a convert, to read everything that I possibly could about all the different aspects of the church. And so I became quite involved with and the activities in the church itself. I was baptized. I was married, and continued on in my activities, and never really, although it was very much the same as it normally is with most anybody. As you're out in the church, your attention seemed to focus on that and not so much on away from the church. But I'd still always have these gnawing questions come up in the back of my mind. And I never quite felt satisfied with the answers that I was receiving. So active in the church, temple, I give a conservative estimate of maybe more than 400 times while I was active. 1 year period. And then I had started going through a more pronounced faith crisis where was missing puzzle pieces that were essential to fit everything together. They just were not there. And it came to the point where I actually stopped going to church. And several years after that, I had my name removed from the records of the church. And then it was actually more of a personal thing at that point. It wasn't so much that I've made a list and I've got all these doctrinal questions. It was that in my heart, I knew that it wasn't true. I had left the religion. That's kind of when I started discovering all of these other about the church that I really had never known about. But in the background, and I worked for a few years at Deseret Book. So I took the I took the information that I had gained and writing things down and where I am right now. I do have to make sure that that I was very dedicated. Knew me as an active member at the time would be able to tell you that here's a guy who has confidence and who has a strong testimony of the church that I did at that. And so
I think that's probably what tells the most about you as a person, Dan, is you don't do anything half-assed. I mean, you go full tilt on everything. When we're talking about the Book of Mormon Comparative, every single comma, semicolon, every last little detail is documented to almost an obsessive level. So you don't try and go, halfway on anything that you do. You always do it to your fullest extent, to your fullest ability. And obviously that amount of passion is made manifest in the work that you've put up on the Real Book of Mormon website here. So I that's fantastic to know that you're on the right side, fighting the good fight now. But some would argue that that's not the case. But
thank you.
It's good to have you, such a powerful mind on this side of the fence, working to help disseminate true information in a way that is palpable this way. Jared, tell us a little bit about your story, tell us, a little bit about Jared's walk through Mormonism.
Sure. I grew up in the church. Grandpa, stake president, dad always doing second counselor or secretaries, a high councilman now. And I remember when I was 8, got baptized, super excited to get the Holy Ghost. It never came. Kind of struggled with, am I not a good enough person for God to give me that gift for a while. I remember when I was 14, I was like, geez, I wish I could have waited until now, because I probably wouldn't have done that. I probably wouldn't have gotten baptized. I probably would have made a different decision. And so I'm definitely a believer now that 8 is way too young to make any type of decision on your own. But kind of just fell away from the church. I always thought it was going to be something that I would get back into, because how could all my family, all my heroes, everybody I ever knew growing up, be wrong, kind of thing. It's the argument of, if so many people believe it, it has to be true. And so I went through my faith crisis when my wife asked me to gain my faith. And I felt, it's time to, and just went through and instantly came across the Book of Abraham and all the, information about that, and how it's all just, a made up story from papyrus that Joseph Smith bought, and how there's so many people out there that are actually Egyptian scholars that agree with that. And so that kind of started it. And I was one of those people that felt like maybe I was a little too naive, thinking that other people are wanting information or the truth. And so I definitely told everybody I knew, my wife, everybody else, that hey, look at this. This isn't true because of this reason. And maybe that's why this website's important to me, is because instantly walls with everybody that is a believer went up. and it was almost like a defense. It went up, no information, whether it was true or how true it could be, was going to break down that wall. And so having some type of forum here would definitely, I hope, help somebody else, because I also know other people in my life that had lost their faith, and they kind of did it the right way, where like the one had lost their faith, but instead of like instantly thinking like, hey, the person that I'm with is going to love what I have to say because I'm telling them the truth, they kind of went at it more slowly. And just so seeing the two sides, where one side is it's kind of a solo game where interfaith relationship, and the other side ended up not being that way. It's definitely important to me that other people are able to really just do that. So anyway, to get to this point, being stuck in a interfaith relationship, like just really has some struggles, and honestly, for I don't think a lot of people understand that for us that are going through a faith crisis, we do have a little bit of a community. Like, I can reach out to Bryce, I can reach out to Dan, I can talk to people, I can listen to podcasts about what's going on. But somebody that I love, with my entire heart, she doesn't have anybody she can talk to. She can't go to the church and feel like she's not being judged. She doesn't have anybody to talk to. And my hope is that part of the forum and stuff is for the other side, not just us talking about how ridiculous things are, but if there was like a way that like if it's the guy that's going through the crisis, if the wife or the spouse or significant other, whoever it is, can go and talk to other people that are going through the same thing, that's probably more of a benefit to me, just knowing that that person I care about in my life has that outlet, has that resource that they can go to, and whether they stay in the faith or not, be able to have a community. I knew when I left the church that I was leaving a community, and I can't imagine what she's gone through, where not having a priesthood holder in the house and not being able to talk to somebody about that has to be hard. But then again, it's not a conversation I can have with her, but hopefully in the future somebody else can, and they can talk about it.
Fantastic. If anything, if this website turns out to be anything, hopefully that is one resource that it can be used for, is people to come together, believers and non-believers alike, and have an open dialogue about these things. Or when somebody is, in the middle of a faith crisis and they don't know who to talk to about it, and they don't want to go to any of those anti-Mormon websites, hopefully this can be a place, a forum where they can go and talk to other people that are in the faith and out of the faith, people who have already come out, and they can understand a little more perspective of it, instead of just feeling like they have to go through this alone, which is, I would say, probably the hardest part for most Mormons to come out of the church. Is you feel like you're alone. You're the only person in the world that's having questions about the church. You see everybody in your community are faithful members of the church, and obviously none of them are having any troubles with their faith or having a faith crisis like yourself. But it just takes dabbling a little bit into internet communities to understand that you're definitely not alone. And that's one point that this resource can hopefully turn into. It can become a proper place for people like that to kind of come and hash out their differences, or find information that they've been needing for a long time. I know, Jared, you initially approached me quite some time ago, venting basically about your interfaith relationship and not knowing exactly what to do about trying to get your wife out of the church. And like you said, whenever you talk to family members, the walls go up, and it's really hard to knock through those walls and actually get any useful information through. So hopefully that can be one aspect of a resource that this can offer for people. So of course, this is, like I said, we're still in the very early stages of this. The Kickstarter is just launching right now, and we're excited to see where it goes after this. We have obviously a lot of ideas of where we want the website to go. We aren't sure exactly what is going to happen with it, and that's probably the most exciting and liberating part of it. Is we don't know where it's going after this. We don't know exactly what it will become, and we're hoping to get feedback from people that look at the website and say, hey, you could do this, or we could do this, we could do this. And that's kind of what we're wanting to get the Kickstarter funding for, is so we can roll those resources into people's suggestions into making this website the best possible website it can be. So obviously there are plenty of more things that we can all say about this. If anybody wants to know more about this website, go on to the realbookofmormon.org and click the About side, or the About page, and you can read everything about this website, about each of the portals that we have available, and the project, and what we're doing with the project. You can see the entire website there. You can tour it. You can look through the different portals that we have available right now. You can see exactly why the site exists. You can sign up for the newsletter there. You can obviously go into any of these portals, the Book of Mormon, the Defector of the Faith, or the Real Book of Mormon, and you can leave your comments at the bottom of each of the websites, and those comments will be taken and hopefully presented for everybody else to see. So Jared, Dan, thank you both very much for coming on. If there's one last thing that both of you would like to say before we sign off and call this a full episode, what might that be? Let's start off with you, Dan.
Well, I would like to say that as much as I have been involved with the Book of Mormon Comparative, and it's mentioned before, it's like another appendage for me. I'm thrilled at the of being able to complete that and have it in the can, hopefully by the end of this year. And as Bryce had mentioned, my goal is to take on the comparative of comparing the King James version of the Bible, Joseph Smith translation of the Bible. A lot of work has been done on that. This would be mostly putting it into the format that currently doing with the Book of Mormon Comparative. So I'm really excited to get started with that too. Just beginning Third Nephi right now on the comparative, and so I get to face all the grisly things that happen in Third Nephi prior to Jesus showing up. It's quite a depressing prospect at the moment. But what I would like to say is mostly in conjunction with the Defector of the Faith. I have to say that I was kind of the first I've heard Jared's story, and I was touched by the what he's gone through, and I know that men are very similar things in their lives, and to challenge people to maybe go to the Defector of the Faith and randomly pull up 10 different facts, the first 10 facts that you come up with, take them and evaluate them in your mind about how you would answer if you align with those facts personally, or if you don't, and then also compare them to, in your mind, perhaps to what the apologist's comeback might be for those things. And I think that is, if you just take 10 of them and go through them, you'll find very clearly that it would be difficult for you to come out with a church after you have just taken the 10 random ones and checked them out. And so it's kind of kind of the closing thing that I would like to say is just give it a chance. Go out there. Certainly, if you've got suggestions, pass them on to us. I'm absolutely looking forward to making the comparative and all the other scriptures become more interactive and bringing in the information from the late war, so it could be or the golden pot or whatever the resource may be. I think that we've made a huge step forward in getting the website where it's at, but I see the growth and expansion and the ability to reach to the potential for all of that to be, it's actually mind-blowing.
Fantastic. Very well said, Dan. Jared, do you want to give us kind of your last thoughts, your closing thoughts before we call it a night?
Sure. I absolutely loved what Dan said about, take the 10 facts and review it. A few things I'd like to add is, like, we do have a newsletter on the website, and one thing that I found that when listening to podcasts is you never get the information that's like, if you're just starting, like Naked Mormonism, for instance, you're not going to know about a lot of stuff until it comes up in the timeline. And one thing we want to do is be able to help people get onto that newsletter. And so if you just sign up for the newsletter, Bryce can reach out to you. Anybody from the Real Book of Mormon.org can go ahead and inform you about, like, hey, there's a forum now, or hey, there's a chat area, or something like that, where it's just information that you're not going to know unless you listen and especially for the people that are, a third of the way through Naked Mormonism or what have you, if they were on a newsletter, to be able to get that information right away. But yeah, so, with that, like with the newsletter, also, like, there's a contact form on the page that you can write to us. And I just really hope that what we do is able to help other people out. And other than that, yeah, I think it's a great project that we're doing, and I hope more people reach out that want to get involved. I don't think that's something we talked about too much, but like, there is a lot of things that people could do to be able to add to this community, and it's just, all it takes is reaching out, doing a little bit here and there to be able to contribute. And hopefully we don't have people in those relationships where, they're 10 years non-believing, but they still go to church every week feeling like they have to. And if we can be an outlet for those people, or what have you, I'd love it. So.
Awesome. Couldn't agree more. And it would just add on to what you both said. I think Dan said it very well when he said, give it a shot, give it a try. Just take a look at the website, see what you have, see what you can find. Chances are you're going to find something that will provoke a lot of thought and further reflection and, reflection on your earlier life in Mormonism. And that's probably a very useful resource in and of itself. I would just say, eventually we want to adapt this to, a mobile app and to have it more accessible. And, people do need to help contribute to this in a way that they, if they have, whether it's just a suggestion to somehow enhance or better the website, yes, we definitely need help there. But if somebody does want to actually contribute, if they have a great idea and are somewhere along in manifesting that idea and want to incorporate that idea into the website, we would love to talk with you about adding in what you have to implement into the website as well. So this, as I said earlier, the most liberating part about this Kickstarter campaign is the fact that we're so early on in the project. And what you said earlier, Jared, is the website is going to evolve and change. That's just how websites work. And as we adapt new points to it and new aspects, things will change. And I think we're all looking forward to seeing how the website develops from here on out. Jan, Jared, and Dan, thank you both very much for joining me. This has been great to talk to both of you and get kind of your perspectives on the website, and kind of get a finger on the pulse of where it is and where it's headed after this. Of course, my name is Bryce Blankenagel. I'm the host of the Naked Mormonism podcast. If you'd like to find that, it's nakedmormonismpodcast.com. And you can find everything else on Stitcher, iTunes, or anywhere that you find podcasts. And if you'd like to reach any of us, you can find the contact form on realbookofmormon.org or on nakedmormonismpodcast.com. With that, I will call it a night. Thank you, gentlemen, both very much for joining me, and appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce.